Crimes, when they are finally exposed, will shock the nation. Best part is, unlike you who are in receipt of my taxpayer rands, I don't get a single cent. Then he said, you attack me personally on social media as if you are Mkwanazi's right-hand man, which means that you must be supporting his criminal conduct. Either that, or you are far too stupid to know a criminal when you see one. And he goes on, he calls me a criminal.
The Hawks have withdrawn an urgent application to compel the executive mayor of the Polokwane municipality in Limpopo, John Mbe, to provide documents related to some transactions. A whistleblower has circulated documents on social media alleging that over 750 million rand was irregularly paid to companies whose owners had close ties to Mbe and the municipal manager Tusone Mukumoni. The urgent application for access to information was filed on Thursday last week. It is set to be heard in the High Court in Polokwane tomorrow. Michael Makungo reports.
In court papers, the notice of withdrawal has been filed by the Hawks as first applicant and investigating officer Calvin Hartle as the second applicant. Hawks national spokesperson Brigadier Tandimbambo says they won't be able to comment as they are still engaging relevant parties on the matter. Meanwhile, MEC for Cooperative Governance, Bascop Makam, has given Mpe until Tuesday to provide a report regarding allegations leveled against him. Michael Makungo, SAPC, Polokwane.
Security has been beefed up at the Western Cape High Court, where the case of alleged underworld gang bosses resumes today. Presiding Judge Vincent Saldana had requested more police visibility in the court, which was confirmed by the state. The accused are on trial on several charges, including the murder of a man known as the Steroid King, Brian Weinstein. The accused face 36 counts, including murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and conspiracy to commit public violence. Amahle Dutoy reports.
The case relates to the nightclub industry and the 2017 killing of Weinstein, among others. A trial within a trial is underway regarding the admissibility of phone records to determine whether it can be used against the accused. Since the start of the trial, 5 people have already been gunned down, including alleged kingpin Mark Liffman, underworld figure Andre Norde, and William Stevens. I'm Amahle Dutoy for SABC News in Cape Town.
12 learners have sustained serious injuries after a minibus they were travelling in overturned in Montgomery Park, north of Johannesburg, this morning. All the injured have been taken to various hospitals. Johannesburg Metro Police spokesperson Kolani Fihla says the minibus, operating as a scholar transport vehicle, crashed on West Park Drive.
A white minibus Toyota Quantum operating as a scholar transport was allegedly attempting to overtake another vehicle when the driver lost control, resulting in the collision. The driver of the Toyota Quantum was found to be under the influence of alcohol. He was arrested and will be detained at Sophia Town SAPS. He faces charges of reckless and negligent driving and driving under the influence of alcohol.
And finally, further afield, there's dissatisfaction among European leaders over the trade deal struck between the presidents of the US and the European Commission. French ministers have called it unbalanced, while the Hungarian Prime Minister says it is worse than the agreement reached between the US and Britain. The BBC's Sarah Smith has the details.
In order to have struck this deal, the EU has pledged to invest hundreds of billions of dollars in the United States, buy a lot of military equipment and hardware, and buy hundreds of billions of dollars worth of energy from the United States over the next 3 years. There's a lot more upside for America than there is for Europe in this deal, but it does allow Europe to avoid even steeper tariffs and, crucially, stops a trade war escalating between the two, because the EU had retaliatory tariffs ready to go.
The top story this hour: Action SA parliamentary leader Athol Trollip has laid criminal charges against forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan. Headlines at 1:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kolofelo Tefo.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
In partnership with SAFM, hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sun El musician, Kelvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zingumalo, Trompies and more. More than music, share stories, spark change, unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za, brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat, Imbaula.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Isegazini, Zoe Modicha. What a beautiful song. I like it. I really like it. In term 3, we all are looking at our children and wondering what's going to happen. Exams are coming up. Are they coping? Are they not coping? Is there anxiety? But then there's another new dynamic which I am finding very troubling. So bullying in schools continues to be a major challenge. And we thought, let's unpack this. What are the solutions to bullying? What really is happening in the playgrounds? What's happening at schools? We're going to be speaking to Managa Pillay, Head of Student Affairs, Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And then the second conversation, we'll speak to Andrew Barrett, Head of Open Learning and Community Maths Education, speaking about, structures out of class learning programs and some free online maths for grade 7, 8 and 9, which I think this is a plus. Our children really need extra curriculum or extra lessons from, different angles or different platforms. Also coming up on the show, project manager of Digibots at Digify Africa, Notando Gininda, will also join us in conversation. And we're talking about National Savings Month with free financial literacy training on WhatsApp. That's going to be quite insightful. I think I'm going to learn a thing or two there. Then our second hour, we take a look at, it's our Career Corner, Beginner's Guide to Breaking into South African Music Industry. Mzi Kaka, lecturer at the Academy of Sound Engineering, will be joining us just to unpack and how one can actually become a sound engineer. Is it easy? Well, we'll find out when we get there. Then the last hour, the last 30 minutes of the show, Amandla, Senior Associate at Bowman's, will be joining us, talking about no humanitarian duty for employers to trace deserters, dismissal for desertion upheld despite incarceration. Wow, that is going to be quite intense. Hopefully, you also get to join into the conversation. And you can give us a call, 086 000 2032, or otherwise send us a WhatsApp voice note on 061 410 4107.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
Starting off with bullying. So you always expect the school to take some form of responsibility or to be a safe space for our children, for your children. And you get to find out that maybe your child is being bullied at school, or even your child is the bully at school. How do you handle the situation? How have we come to this stage as a nation? What it really is happening? Why is it that we've become so fragmented and so fractured? I think our moral fiber somehow has just become something else. It is in tatters, if you were to ask me. But anyway, I do have Managa Pillay, Head of Student Affairs, Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, joining us. And looking at schools which are back for term 3, and finding out that bullying continues to be a major challenge in our schools. Are we being attentive sufficiently as parents, as teachers, as caregivers, as governing bodies, government representatives? What are the solutions? But I always believe, let's get to the bottom of the cancer before we start treatment. That's just my perspective. But let's get to our guest. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you, Bertha. Thank you so much. Wonderful to speak to you and to all your listeners.
Thank you for making time. So, is the rampant school bullying a reflection of the state of our society?
Absolutely, Bertha. I think it's very clear that schools are a microcosm of the societies that we live in. Our students, our children, learners don't come to us as blank slates. So I think it's very important to acknowledge it. And I'm so excited that you are giving, focus to this topic. And we're seeing the manifestation of the violence in our society, in our schools. And I think it's really a very critical space to address bullying because, we have so many, almost 14 million of our learners in a catchment space. And it's really a wonderful opportunity to be able to focus on bullying and really to, unteach some of the behaviors in terms of how we engage with each other. The other important thing about schools is that it's pretty much the first time that our learners get to engage in social relationships with other people. So it's important to acknowledge that bullying is a reality, and that we certainly can be proactive in terms of addressing it and addressing the vulnerability of our children.
And we know that, bullying has added a digital element in today's schools.
Indeed.
We've got WhatsApp, we've got other social media and other tools that have just bombarded us.
Absolutely.
Is there a way out of this? Is there a solution?
But absolutely. I think we need to, as you're saying, we need to acknowledge that bullying is real, that we have a responsibility with parents to address bullying. Bullying can be extremely insidious. It can be very, subtle. It can also be very overt. I mean, we've had various experiences and incidences across the country within our schools where, we have very tangible, violent cases of bullying. And of course, online bullying and cyberbullying is a critical space. And as you said, in the world of technology that we live in, it can be really insidious with our students engaging in bullying activities, even online, and not being aware of it. In terms of what we can do, I think, as you initially said, it's very important to look at what are some of the causes of bullying, and we need to look at it culturally, structurally, relationally, in terms of how we relate with each other. I often say to our students at the academy, if you can be anything, be kind, as your first approach to people. But sometimes that's not always, necessary. But I think as schools, we need to acknowledge it. At the Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy, our starting point was to put a safeguarding child protection policy on the table, which, really articulates the responsibilities of all stakeholders to acknowledge bullying. And I think it's important to acknowledge, number one, that it exists, but obviously to promote awareness, to look at reporting, to look at prevention, and also to look at response. Because I think often when you look at children finding the wherewithal and the strength and courage to say, this pains me, this is hurting me, if the adults in their environment don't approach the topic proactively and actually listen to what they're saying, the child is going to lose faith in the system. So it's really looking at all role players, being very clear about what the stance is. All our schools have a code of conduct and a disciplinary code. I'm sure you're aware. It has to be critical in terms of the code of conduct so that the child understands the parameters in which we operate as a school. And so too do the adults, because we know that bullying can also happen from adult to child, right? So it's
Absolutely.
important to look at. Yeah.
I think also we need to also rope in our listeners or who are also listening to you and I, because it has to really be a rounded conversation. It's almost like a round table. This is something that happens within our communities ever so often. I want to pose a question maybe to our listeners. What is it that you do as a parent? You get a report that your child is the bully at school. How do you go about handling the situation? And then we flip the coin where your child is the one that is being bullied. They come home and they complain over and over again. And as a parent, what have been some of the steps that you've had to take and how have you managed the situation? When we come back, we're going to take a small break. We continue with the conversation. Send us your voice notes on 061 410 4107.
The Health Professions Council of South Africa, HPCSA, has extended its call for nominations of suitable persons to serve on the HPCSA professional boards. All practitioners actively registered with the HPCSA may be nominated. Deadline for submissions is 31 July 2025. For more details, visit the HPCSA website, hpcsa.co.za.
This Mandela Month, SAFM celebrates the spirit of Ubuntu, calling on all South Africans to engage, uplift, and do good for one another. Let's share what we have, lend a helping hand, and honor Madiba's legacy through kindness and action. Join SAFM as we bring you powerful conversations, inspiring stories, and voices that drive change all month long. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
Get ready to embark on a thrilling journey of crime, redemption, and the pursuit of justice as Soon Comes Night premieres on SABC 1 Sundays at 8 p.m. A tale about liberation hero turned heist king Alex Shabane in a 6-part drama starring Kwenzo Ngobo, Kenneth Nkosi, Albert Pistorius, Didintle Kunou, Khaosi Raditolo, Aneliswa Pewa, and Bahumi Mhlongo, one man in search of justice, the other on a path of redemption.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
And we're talking about bullying in schools, and I posed a question, and the question is, as a parent, as a caregiver, you have one child that comes home, complains, "Mom, I'm being bullied." Have you taken action? Have you paid attention? What have been your way of solving the issue? Or maybe you get a call from the school itself to say your child is the bully. What has been your reaction, your response to the matter? And on the line, we thought let's speak to somebody who is smack in the middle of, the education system, and they have children with them all day, all the time, and they get to witness some of this bullying. Head of Student Affairs, Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls, Managa Pillay. Welcome back.
Thank you, Bertha.
So in terms of looking for solutions, but maybe before we even get to solutions, what could be the reasons bullying thrives so much in certain environments more than others? Some schools, some parents may even be more lenient to bullying. What really happens? How is it? Some environments are absolutely perfect. It never happens.
Yeah. Look, there's several reasons for that. I think one of the important things for me for schools is to acknowledge that it actually happens, and being very clear and consistent about it. And if there are, weak conversations about it, inconsistent disciplinary processes, obviously that becomes the culture of the school. You need to have an environment where the school has a zero tolerance for aggression, and teaching children restorative ways in which to deal with conflict, right? Because I think as a society, we can't, we have to acknowledge that there are going to be differences of opinion, different perceptions, different ways of how we deal with it, but we need to be able to teach the children, how to resolve conflict in constructive, restorative, meaningful ways. Things like limited supervision and oversight, teacher training, staff training, parental attitudes and involvement, as you said as well, is very critical. The default position of a parent is going to either be to protect my child or minimize what's going on. The parent will say, just try, everything's going to be okay. But if this action is consistent and it happens all the time, and the child is constantly feeling their power being diminished, we need to be able to acknowledge it. Student empowerment then becomes so critical. As I said, schools are microcosms of society. So in terms of the insecurities, the social inequalities, the levels of competition that, children are exposed to, they bring it into the school environment. And of course, we often talk about the debate of looking at a value-based education system. How do we teach empathy and respect and social emotional skills to our children? Many of those, issues contribute to whether bullying is handled appropriately or not within the school environment.
And some children are so afraid to raise their voice voices, share their pain, or even, come home and tell you that they are being bullied. How do we help them speak up? Because sometimes when you come home and you report, or you go to, your respective teachers to say, look, I am being bullied, the one that's bullying you actually will warn you to say, if you ever, then death is upon you.
Yeah.
How then do we get these kids to get to talk in a safe space and knowing that it will be dealt with effectively?
Yeah, I think you've mentioned a very critical word, Bertha, and that is safe. We really need to be able to position the culture of our schools as being safe and protective environments. And that comes through really building strong, consistent connections with the learners. It's building trust relationships. It's enabling children to know about their rights, and we can do that both in the curriculum and in co-curricular activities. And we really need to build their self-esteem, self-confidence, to normalize speaking out. And I think the other very important thing is to have reporting channels that are not just one, because you might find going to the principal's office or going to a life orientation teacher might not be something that the child is comfortable with. Whereas you might have a, student representative council member, you might have a social worker, you might have a teacher that, they establish a relationship with, and they find it a comfortable space to be able to make their voices heard. So it's very important to be able to create those safe mechanisms. And I think the critical point is about promoting awareness, right? I need to be able to understand if I'm feeling uncomfortable, I'm feeling that my power is being diminished in any way, that one of my recourses must be that I must be able to speak out. I must be able to ask for help and ensure them, that this matter will be dealt with confidentially. And also critically important is that parents are very clear about what the code of conduct is in schools, because you are getting the child that's being bullied, and you're also getting parents that children are bullying, and the default is to say, my child is not wrong. So it's really creating those opportunities and conversations to have very, deliberate discussions around the issue and what it means for our children to bully, number one, because it is an issue. It's not about bad behavior, but perhaps even the bully is having issues and it's manifesting in this way.
Yeah.
And then there are those that are being bullied, and, just being able to give them a voice to be able to understand how do we restore the relationship.
Absolutely. We're going to take a small break. We're going to news headlines. When we come back, we continue with the conversation. We'll also take your voice notes and also your WhatsApp texts. And I'm speaking to Managa Pillay, head of Student Affairs, Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And we're talking about bullying in schools. And your responses and your reactions are absolutely welcome. Ondela is on standby. It's past.
Good afternoon, I'm Kolofelo. Therefore, in the headlines this hour, the presidency has released a latest progress report on the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission. Action SA parliamentary leader Athol Trollip has laid criminal charges against forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan, and Deputy Minister of Transport Mkhuleko Hlengwa has called on the country's youth to seize opportunities in the logistics and transport sector. I'll have details at 2.
Call us on 086 000 2032.
Oh, this is quite hilarious. The day when I decide to be all orderly and say the name of my newsreader is the day when I get it so wrong. Kolefelo, I do beg your pardon. But anyway, on another note, we're talking about serious issues. We're talking about bullying in schools, how to handle, how to harness, because most of the times you find, especially the child that's being bullied, if they don't speak up, they may regress in their learning. That could be a side effect. Or some of them start having suicidal thoughts or bunking school. What is it then as a society, as a community? What do we do to make sure that we are on top of issues. And on the other line, I've got Managa Pillay, Head of Student Affairs, Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. And just to help us unpack, because they deal with some of these issues on a daily basis. But also, taking a look at your reactions, I've got a text that came through. It says, the problem with bullying is schools is the output of the input in family structure issues or behavior of society itself. Learners who become bully either were bullied themselves or lack love and respect from the society or their homes. That's from Brian Mabai from Protea Glen. I think let's take some of the voice notes, and then I'll come back to you, Managa.
Good afternoon, Bertha. When bullying happens in school, the parents, they don't reason on the problem of the child. They just defend their children because it's their child, it's their rights to do so, but they never look at the problem. This issue with bullying in school, where the parents have to defend their children, it's like racism. When we say someone is a racist, we never looked at the problem of the two people. We just cover everything with the word racism. That's why we don't get the answer, because we will only defend one side of the story, which will be the parent of the child. Brandma by Prochaglan. Thanks for the question.
I think education in the school environment is important regarding bullying. Reason being that to say that it's wrong, first of all, and teaching children to respect one another. So that is the one thing, because I can say that in the 70s I was a bully and I didn't know any different. We weren't educated about bullying at the time, and I was bullied by the boys because I played with many of them. There weren't many girls around, so I played with the boys who were my age. But I was also bullied by them because I was better than them at many things too. So, but the older boys would bully me. So the cycle went round and round, but it's because we weren't educated.
Good afternoon, SAFM team and your listeners. The TV programs also contribute a lot with children to become bullies. My granddaughter used to watch, there was a program of this cartoon that was called Mordecai. My granddaughter, I had to ban her from watching that Mordecai because he was so violent and she was so violent. She was doing exactly what Mordecai was doing. It's Lucy in Gauteng.
That's another thing. Just so much is available. I mean, we spoke about social media, it's television, it's a whole lot of things. And children also, they just copy what they see. And sometimes they consider it to be quite normal. And it's just so difficult then to come back as a parent to say, actually, as a matter of fact, that is not normal. Just don't do it. But coming to you, Managa, I think the voice note from the lady, but maybe let me leave you to just respond to the three. Your take on the three?
I loved what the listeners said, because, it's about, it's a mirror, it's a looking glass, and I think one of the parents or one of the speakers alluded to the fact that you need to be able to look at where children come from, and that it's a reflection of the society and the homes that we live in. Absolutely. And also that, schools are a microcosm of our society. We need to accept that we have to deliberately and intentionally teach our children relational skills, issues of mutual understanding, respect, empathy, as the one speaker said. And the last speaker, such a brilliant contribution. Parents really need to take responsibility for what we pour into our children, right? Because those are the ingredients of making them future citizens and future members of society. So we need to be very deliberate about it. And the other important thing I took away from what they said was that it's certainly a mutual responsibility. Together as partners, the school and parents and community can very constructively, address the issues. And also the speaker, made a point about parents do become defensive, but it's really important for parents to be supportive, to be collaborative, but also to enable a child to take accountability for their actions. When I do something wrong, I need to be able to accept that I've erred and this is how I, correct my behavior, but also I learn from how I've hurt others and pained others. So it's very important, as the speaker said, to be able to look at both the bullying child and the child that's being bullied. So very useful inputs from the community there and your listeners, Thanks, Bertha.
And the South African Society of Psychiatrists warn of mental health impact, of escalating bullying at school. So now how do we foster, culture of kindness, of empathy, of respect that inherently discourage bullying?
Yeah, look, it's a complicated issue, and it's a very good question that you ask, and I think it really needs to start from the home, but the school provides an excellent opportunity to unpack some of these issues, and in some instances we have to, reteach. We have to break down the narratives of how do I get my way in society without demeaning my fellow peer, So I think it's really looking at those issues. It's looking at a value-based education, but it's also creating a sense of accountability, ownership, awareness, looking at what it means, for bullying to happen. It's really us starting to re-engage with some of these issues. And look, it's not an easy task, and I think it's more complicated than we realized. Sometimes bullying getting merged within and diluted around a mental health issue, for example. And if you take time to really unpack it and work with the child, you will find that there are many causative factors that led to the child manifesting, their behavior in a certain way, and it needs very deliberate and intentional attention. So it's also creating those support structures in the school to work with children to deal with some of the issues. At the academy, we look at, trauma-informed work and a trauma-informed approach, and it's really looking at, we don't ask a child what's wrong with you, but we look at what has happened to you that has enabled you or, manifested the behavior in this kind of way. Because when you say what's wrong with you, you're creating a notion of a deficit and that there's something wrong with you. It's more negative, So I think it's really also creating the culture and the tone that we are here to look at justice, we are here to look at restoration, and we are here to look at how can we be kind to each other, because I think there are so many bigger problems that overwhelm us in society and our communities and our schools for that matter. So it's small baby steps, it's a small start, but it's really about normalizing, some of these issues, normalizing the ability to ask for help, even when you don't know, how to react. Because if you're looking at a child who's going to react with aggressiveness and, is going to scream and shout, we also need to understand that that child might not necessarily be behaving badly, but, they are acting out for some reason or the other. So to really create the opportunity to engage parents early, to engage children early, for schools, for us to act decisively and, not dilly-dally, on a matter so that it becomes diluted and almost forgotten about, but to be decisive, action-orientated, create an environment where both the victim and the child that's bullying knows that,
it
adults
is wrong.
are taking this seriously. Absolutely.
Managa, we'll have to leave it at this point. That's Managa Pillay, Head of Student Affairs, Oprah Winfrey Leadership Academy for Girls. Thank you so much for making time, and have yourself a great one.
Thank you, Bertha. Thank you for having me. All the best.
Bye-bye.
SA Sport Awards reflect our collective nation-building spirit. Mzansi's sport heroes and heroines have shown resilience, persistence, passion, discipline, and world-class achievements in the sports fraternity. Nominees will be announced in August. Let us celebrate #IsInJustAGame. Catch the 18th Annual SA Sport Awards on Sunday 24 August at 7:30 p.m. on SABC Plus and SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4, then on SABC 1 at 8 p.m. Brought to you by the Department of Sport, Arts and Culture in partnership with SASCOG and SABC Sport. Celebrating sporting excellence.
Conversations that you connect with and react to. SAFM.
And coming up next, let's talk about structured out-of-school education programs, which are said to be helping learners in under-resourced areas like Diepsloot, Alexandra, rural Limpopo to catch up, rebuild confidence and succeed in maths. And to help us find out exactly how this works, I've got Andrew Barrett, Head of Open Learning in Community, Maths Education, and maybe, you can learn a thing or two. We are going towards exams and the matrics are going to be writing, I think it's September or so, around about that time. This is the time when you need every resource that you can get your hands on just to make sure that you are well equipped just before the exams. Andrew, good to have you on the show.
Hi, Bertha. Lovely to be here.
So why is it that school day is no longer enough, and what are the learners missing in the time that we have? I mean, when I went to school, you just go to school by 1 o'clock, 3 o'clock, school is over, all is good and well.
Yeah, okay. So that is a heck of a question to get right up front, but because it's a very complex issue. We know, I think, like rooted in the legacy of a poor education over many, many decades, we're still paying for those sins, unfortunately. And I think the reality is that because of that, most learners who attend low-income schools or rural schools often fall behind, particularly in subjects like mathematics. And the only way that we're going to be able to overcome learning backlogs, particularly in maths, is to be able to extend the school day and to help learners get on top of some of the foundational skills that they are missing by the time they're entering into high school, for example.
And maybe just tapping into what you specialize in first before we even find out, the kind of results that you're actually getting. What's your philosophy? How does your system work?
Yeah, sure. So I look at maths education. We've been around for nearly 20 years, and we work primarily after school, where learners will come to a center or we'll work in a school, and we'll work with essentially where learners are at in terms of their learning journey and try to connect that into their particular grade level. So the reality is that for most learners, when they're starting high school, they're already 3 to 4 years behind where they should be mathematically. But it's more than that. It's often the learner's entire orientation towards mathematics that is lacking and missing. And so what we really try and do is build the foundational skills that they need in order to engage at the particular grade level that they need to be engaging at, so that they can use mathematics ultimately as a lever towards quality post-school opportunities.
So now coming to the results, the kind of results that you're seeing in maths performance and learner confidence, what is it that we can also do? I mean, grade 7s, 8s and 9s, that's the time when, mathematics just becomes a little bit of a challenge.
100%. So, and as you get up, it's getting more and more complex. So, what we have to do at the beginning of high school is to make sure that learners are on top of the foundational skills that are required in mathematics, because it's such a scaffolded subject. If you miss those foundations, you're not going to be able to get on top of them. And in our experience over the last sort of 17, 18 years, I think grade 8 and grade 9 is almost your last chance saloon, where you have an opportunity to work on some of those backlogs that learners are carrying to get them up to a grade level so that they have a springboard and a foundation into grade 10, 11, 12, but that by the time they write matric, they can do so and achieve well in mathematics.
So looking at your your program structure and your curriculum alignment, let's say for somebody who is in Diepsloot in Alexander, I know that you've got what is the free online maths.
Yeah.
How does that work?
So there's a couple of things that we do for our primary school learners. One of the issues, and I'm sure there's many listeners right now that hear the word mathematics and it invokes feelings of anxiety, maybe a little bit of fear. And so what we do a lot with our primary school learners is a lot of play-based mathematics, where we're helping learners build confidence, but also do it in a way that's building those critical foundational skills that they need in order to access their grade level work. And then in high school, we do a blend of tutoring and technology. So we've got a free online platform that learners can access, and they can work through the particular key concepts that we want them to get on top of in their maths. And then we put a skilled tutor alongside them so that as they're working through it and as they're getting stuck, we can have someone intervene who can ensure that they get on track and they get a good understanding of their maths.
Mm. And how do the programs create safer, more supportive learning environment?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's one of the things. So obviously we have a strong maths focus, and we're trying to obviously push learners' academic results and potential. But if we think about in the context of the conversation that's been going on this morning, the after-school space creates a safe space for learners to come, and it's often staffed by local youth or tutors from universities who are really, really strong role models for these young people, and we can make sure we've got a productive space where there is no bullying, where if there are issues that can be mediated well. But it also creates, I think, a really sense of calm for the parents to know that their learners are, or that their children are productively engaged in the afternoons, particularly if they're currently out at work or looking for work, that they know that they're in a safe environment, that they're being looked after, and more than that, that also some of their academic challenges are being addressed too.
Mm. And business-wise, government, what would you like them to assist with so that the scaling becomes better? I think this one we can make it a quick one.
Yes, okay, sure. So, I mean, if you're interested in maths improvement, obviously speak to me. I mean, government's doing a lot of work already. We work quite a lot with them on many issues. A lot of our content is free and openly available. Anybody who wants to use it can use it. Any companies interested in supporting maths education, they just need to contact me.
So we can go to www.learn.olico, which is spelled OLICO.org. That is free online maths for grade 7s, 8s, and 9. Is there another site maybe that I've missed out?
Yeah, perfect. That's perfect. Or you can just go to olico.org, OLICO, olico.org, and that's you'll be able to find my contact details on there as well.
Andrew, thank you so much for joining us, and keep
Bertha,
on doing the great work. Hopefully it will be helpful to someone from today onwards.
Okay, brilliant.
Bye-bye for now. That's Andrew Barrett, head of OLICO. That's Open Learning in Community Maths Education. Don't say that we didn't assist. We're trying the best that we can. There's no need for you to fail your mathematics. Go to www.learn.olico.org.
Breaking news. SARS has enhanced the personal income tax return form. It has simpler questions that adapt to your income and deductions based on your answers. Whether you're employed or self-employed, the digital form has built-in guidance and the option to save and finish later. Tax matters, so does your time. File with ease on e-filing or the SARS Mobi app today. Go to sars.gov.za. SARS, at your service.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture, and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula. Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Started 13th of July at 7:30 on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And coming up next, Digify Africa marks #National Savings Month with free financial literacy training on WhatsApp. Oh, yes. So in honor of National Savings Month, Digify Africa is helping South Africans build financial confidence, resilience by offering free, easy-to-access financial literacy lessons via WhatsApp through its innovative learning bots, Luazi and Lesedi. As South Africans continue to face rising living costs, unemployment, economic uncertainty, the need for practical financial education has never been greater. So Digify decided, okay, fine, let's come up with something. And they're stepping up with a solution that's both accessible, user-friendly, making financial literacy available to anyone with a smartphone. So I suppose that will help you and I. I'm terrible with finances, but Notando Gininda, project manager, GDBots at Digify Africa, is on the line. Good to have you on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Help us make our lives simpler here. So you've got a program where you're training on WhatsApp. How does this work?
Yeah, so Digify Africa, we are a digital skills and education technology organization. So part of our offering is the WhatsApp DigiBots, which we basically use to deliver micro-learning.
And teaching essential financial literacy skills. It sounds very broad. Maybe if you could just break it down or simplify it so that whoever is listening to you and I can really grasp.
Yeah. Okay. So what we do is basically we leverage the technology of WhatsApp to break down the barriers of financial literacy faced by South Africans. Just to help them make smarter money decisions in their everyday lives. So we use our educational WhatsApp bots where South Africans can learn the basics of managing money through budgeting, saving, investing, understanding credit, as well as setting financial goals. And all of this we do through simple interactive conversations via the WhatsApp platform.
And I see that you also you teach about reading your credit score.
Yes, definitely. So all our bots, the content that we deliver is backed by South Africa's financial institutions, which are obviously also regulated by the FSCA. So the work that we do is really just around
consumer education in terms of how to save, the different ways to save and invest, as well as just understanding your credit scores, how you calculate a credit score, also just around what good debt and bad debt is. So just really the basics of savings and financial literacy.
I was just looking at one specific area where it says understanding the difference between money versus wealth, because we all have our own, understanding of what is wealth. One could easily say 1 million is wealth. Another one could easily say I need 100 million for me to be wealthy. What do you mean when you say the difference between money versus wealth?
Yeah. Well, money is something that we use on a daily basis, like for transactions, right? And I mean, everyone can have money, but when we speak wealth, we start speaking around passive income. We start speaking around being able to, even make money whilst you sleep, right? Also just not necessarily being a person who is working to, like from hand to mouth, basically, but you're just able to actually live a life and even leave a legacy, for instance, for your children. So it's just not being in a space where money is used for your daily living and your basic needs, but rather being able to know that you have, let's say, for instance, retirement savings, you have property, insurance for your future and unforeseen circumstances. So those are really just the differences.
And your target audience, who are primarily your target audience, and do you have like a beginners, intermediate, or advanced levels?
Yeah. So our target audience is really every ordinary South African, but as an organization, we do like to really concentrate a lot on our youth as well, because we do want to start them young. So in my opinion, the National Savings Month campaign is definitely vital for like young South Africans, especially those navigating their first jobs, their gig economy, trying to start businesses, and even those trying to pursue further education, for instance. With the high levels of unemployment and economic uncertainty, young people often face significant financial pressures, right? So encouraging a savings mindset early helps build financial resilience. It reduces dependency on credit, and it also just opens the door to future opportunities like, as I said previously, owning property, investing in education, starting a business. But so for us, instilling healthy money habits early, we try to empower youth to take control of their financial futures.
Natando Ganinda, Project Manager, Digibots at Digify Africa. Thank you for making time. For more info, where do we go?
You can actually start learning on the bots just from your WhatsApp. So if you just go onto WhatsApp and save our Lwazi bot contact number, which is 066 566 6536. That's 066 566 6536. Or you can learn basic investment knowledge on the Lesedi bot, and the number there is 076 611 8409.
Thank you so much, and have yourself a good one. It's just gone after 2. Time for news.
Top stories this hour. Ramaphosa reports on state capture progress and Trolip opens case against O'Sullivan. Good afternoon. I'm Kolofelo Tefo. The presidency has released a latest progress report on the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission. The report indicates that nearly 11 billion rand of stolen public funds has been recovered, law enforcement capacity has been strengthened, as well as comprehensive reforms across government. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says although this work is far from being completed, President Cyril Ramaphosa is committed to the full implementation of the recommendations and rebuilding of public trust in all institutions.
President Ramaphosa finds the progress outlined in this report demonstrative of the unwavering commitment to ensuring that those responsible for state capture are held accountable and that the systemic weaknesses that enabled this assault on our democracy are permanently addressed.
Action SA parliamentary leader Athol Trollip has laid criminal charges against forensic investigator Paul O'Sullivan. This is in relation to a series of text messages that Trollip views as intimidating and hindering of his parliamentary oversight. Trollip laid the criminal charges at the Cape Town Central Police Station this morning. He says he feels intimidated by O'Sullivan, adding that this is a direct attack on an elected official and that such conduct must be dealt with in accordance with the law.
He says, I've been looking at your misinformed attacks on me on social media because someone forwarded them to me. You're clearly an arrogant fool that doesn't have a clue what's going on. Mkhwanazi is one of the biggest criminals that ever wore police uniform. His crimes, when they are finally exposed, will shock the nation. Best part is, unlike you who are in receipt of my taxpayer rands, I don't get a single cent. Then he said, you attack me personally on social media as if you are Mkhwanazi's right-hand man, which means that you must be supporting his criminal conduct. Either that or you are far too stupid to know a criminal when you see one. And he goes on, he calls me a criminal.
DA Member of Parliament Emma Powell has announced her resignation as the party spokesperson on international relations and cooperation through a statement on X. In the statement, Powell says she made the decision to step down from the position after careful reflection. Lulama Makia reports.
Powell says she has spent the past 2 years traveling the world on behalf of her party and speaking out against some of the most repressive and brutal regimes in the world. She says many of these are closely enmeshed with government leaders and the Department of International Relations and Cooperation than the public realizes. She goes on further to say she has been threatened, intimidated, harassed, and illegally surveilled.
Deputy Minister of Transport Mkhuleko Hlengwa has called on the country's youth to seize opportunities in the logistics and transport sector. Hlengwa was speaking at the inaugural Cross-Border Road Transport Agency MSME conference in Gqeberha in the Eastern Cape. The meeting aims to empower cross-border freight operations by focusing on growth strategies, compliance and operational efficiency in the logistics industry. Hlengwa emphasized the need for the creation of a transformed and inclusive logistics sector that supports youth and small businesses.
The 7th administration has identified the logistics and transport sector as one of the key enablers for achieving sustainable and inclusive economic growth in our country. We are committed to a reform process that seeks to revitalize the sector whilst also contributing to the social imperative of the transformation of our society.
And finally, further afield, there is frustration in Gaza at the slow and chaotic delivery of aid into the territory. The UN's aid chief, Tom Fletcher, has welcomed the Israel's easing of restrictions, but says yesterday's 100 or so truckloads are not enough. The Hamas-run health ministry says a further 14 people have died from malnutrition in the last 24 hours. Fletcher says what is needed is a ceasefire.
We need a sustained period of delivery, weeks, months, to build up, to stop that starvation and build up the supplies again. Ultimately, we need a ceasefire. These pauses are a good step in the right direction, but stopping the conflict is the key.
The top story this hour, the presidency has released a latest progress report on the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission. Headlines at 2:30 for SAFM News. I'm Kulufelo Tefo.
Breaking news. SARS has enhanced the personal income tax return form. It has simpler questions that adapt to your income and deductions based on your answers. Whether you're employed or self-employed, The digital form has built-in guidance and the option to save and finish later. Tax matters, so does your time. File with ease on e-filing or the SARS Mobi app today. Go to sars.gov.za. SARS, at your service.
Have you recently migrated to the new TV licenses payment website? Make sure your account stays active by registering again or resetting your password. Don't miss out on all the fantastic new features our brand new website offers. Get registered today and stay connected with us. With the new website, get your payments done quickly and hassle-free with a wide range of services. So make sure you register to take advantage of all the great client features. Visit www.tvlic.co.za today. TV licenses. Do it for the things that matter.
Gender-based violence is destroying lives and tearing communities apart. It happens in homes, in schools, at workplaces, and too often in silence. But it doesn't have to continue. If you see it, speak out. If you are hurting, reach out. Because doing nothing is not an option. Listen to all 19 SABC radio stations from Wednesday, the 23rd of July for hard talk, discussions, advice, dramas, educational shows and interviews around GBV with experts, survivors, lawmakers and a whole country affected by gender-based violence. All on your favorite SABC radio station. Call 0800 428 428 to report abuse or get help. GBV, it ends with you. This message is brought to you by the SABC.
In partnership with SAFM, hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival, where music, culture and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens, 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sun El musician Kelvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zingumalo, Trompies and more. More than music, share stories, spark change, unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za, brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat, Imbaula.
You are listening to The Full Circle.
Voices in my dreams, telling me where I should go. Saying over here is where I wanna be. There's melodies in me, yeah, saying this is who I am. Dingaba indoni na ngaphandle kwakho mina. There ain't no way to show you. There ain't no way to show you. Ain't no way to show you. Now so take it in. Got 'em to the middle. When you smile, when you dance, when you look into my eyes, now so take it in. Got 'em to the middle. Never been dibuza. Ngabufuna ntoni na, yeah. Bathi ndenza ndizihlekisa ngabantu. Oh, never been dibuza. Ngabuzokwenzani na. Ndilapha ndenza indima yam. Whoa, njengabana nesiphiwo.
zonke jikizinto. It is the full circle, and just to recap, if you've missed the better part of the show, well, we started the conversation on bullying. Term 3 has started, and bullying continues to be a major challenge. How to harness or how to find solutions so that your daughter, your son, or your children rather are in an environment that is safe and they can write their exams without any anxiety or any challenges. Also, we spoke opportunities structured out of school education programs. Now, this is a really good one because for anyone who's going to write their matric, or maybe you're in grade 7, 8, or 9, we had a conversation with Andrew Barrett, head of open learning in community, and talking about their free online maths for those grades, which could really be of big assistance. And also spoke to Notando Geninda, Digify Africa, marking National Savings Month with free financial literacy training on WhatsApp. So from now on going forward, you shouldn't struggle with your finances if you want to know your credit score. I've never really looked for my credit score. This is a platform where you can learn that, or maybe you want to do property investment, or you just want to know how to save money in a manner that will make sure that you are financially savvy. That's a platform maybe you could give a try. Coming up next, Beginner's Guide to Breaking into the South African Music Industry. Let me tell you, I know for a fact. You need to know your story, though. You cannot go into this industry and say, look, I'm just going to give it a try. It's either you're passionate about it and you give it your all. And if you think it's something where you can think, it's my second thing, well, all I can say is good luck. But to help us really understand, I've got Mzi Kaka, lecturer at the Academy of Sound Engineering, with me in the studio. So in the forever evolving career landscape, it's prudent to explore all career avenues. And we thought this afternoon let's talk about aspiring creatives looking to carve out careers in one of the country's most competitive industries, music, which maybe will benefit from fresh insights and guidance. And while digital tools have made entry more accessible, trust me, it's like AI. I'm going crazy, loving it. But it comes with also the minuses. But anyway, let me introduce my guest. Good to have you on the show.
Bertha, thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. So for anyone who's interested, who is an aspiring individual that would be in the music industry, am I right when I say you really have to either love it passionately, or it's something you can learn, step by step and be good at it or excellent at it?
Well, there's absolutely no compromising on the passion. That is essential to get you started, but more importantly, to keep you going. If you're going to be making sustained efforts towards your goal, your ultimate goal, whatever that may be, the realization thereof is going to require endurance and persistence. And that's where the passion and the uncompromised love that you speak of comes into play. At the same time, the secondary point you made regarding learning along the way is also very much a reality. You touched on AI for a moment there, and this industry is very tech-centered, very tech-driven. And because of the emergence of technologies which enable us to, for example, execute our creative ideas at elite levels, we find ourselves constantly having to upskill, if not reskill altogether. So there's definitely learning along the way, not to mention legislative changes which may come about affecting how the business operations and the business frameworks within the industry are navigated. So I would say both apply, but first and foremost, the love is what gets us in and keeps us going.
So how do young South Africans stand out, build careers that last?
All right. Very important. This should be approached much like any other profession, much like a standard conventional business, I would say. So you should have an idea of what your value proposition is to the industry and just how expansive that is. At Academy of Sound Engineering, we believe that the framework for success is built on 3 pillars. The first being talent. So you at least have to have some form of talent which will be of value to the industry. Mind you, this is not restricted to musicality per se. There is also perception, as we call it. So this is being perceptive in the sense that you are able to have a natural feel for what will be of commercial viability, if you will, when it comes to hearing and seeing talent accordingly in that respect. So understanding what your value proposition is, then beginning to tailor a message around that, tailor a pitch, so to speak, the elevator pitch, as they would say, around your particular proposition, design and create products around it that would allow those you might be approaching in the industry or the market at large to sample what it is you have to offer. This will be particularly useful when it comes to gaining access into the industry as far as networking goes, because when it comes to networking, leading with value is imperative. And should you be leading with something that your prospective mentor may see to be of value to them or of value to the industry and community at large, this may play in your favor very much. And then continuously developing along the way. So educating yourself accordingly through the various means available to us today. And next thing you know, you'll be looking back over your shoulder and be surprised at how far you've come.
And looking at the barriers to entry, they are much, much lower, which is absolutely fantastic. There's so many digital tools, you're talking about self-education,
Yes.
So many content platforms, but also that comes with congestion, right?
Indeed. With lowering of the barriers to entry has indeed come quite a lot of congestion, which is why we find ourselves needing to supplement the raw talent or technical expertise with soft skills as it pertains to business, understanding market and positioning, branding, and also putting together business plans and actioning them accordingly. So this is indeed very important when it comes to navigating the congestion thereof and finding your point of difference, gaining access therein. And this will also further underscore the importance of trying to accumulate as many advantages as you can. And that's where education as well comes into play. As previously, this was seen as an industry where many were self-taught. Fortunately, there are credible means by which you can teach yourself accordingly, online, micro-credentials and things of the sort. If I think of Academy of Sound Engineering, it's quite a broad offering, technical, musical, but also at the same time, we have a strong focus on business acumen that really allows you to bring all of these learnings or all of these fields of expertise together to see to it that you are given an advantage above your peers as you're transitioning or trying to break into the industry, because where there's congestion, point of difference is extremely important.
Absolutely. Mzi Kaka, lecturer at the Academy of Sound Engineering. Lines are opened. Our WhatsApp line is also opened. If you have any questions, maybe you've been thinking of pursuing your career in this direction, you can give us a call, send us your voice note. Just make sure that it's not more than a minute and it's crisp and straight to the point. Send it to 061 410 4107, or you can give us a call 086 000 2032. And I'll pose the questions to our guest. He's in the studio, so don't wait until he's out of the studio. Let's take a small break and we'll be back.
Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture, and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musicians Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. This Mandela Month, Nelson Mandela once said,
"We have traveled a long journey. We have fought for peace and reconciliation, for social justice, for all men, women, and children."
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And this is a career that you most probably want to consider. Hashtag Career Corner. And today we thought let's zone into the Academy of Sound Engineering. And I do have my guest, Mzi Kaka, lecturer at the Academy of Sound Engineering, a beginner's guide to breaking into the South African music industry. This is a spot where you can, if you were thinking about it or you're already in it and you're struggling to find your pathway, you can always pose a question. We're readily available to answer those questions. So coming back to you, to my guest, Mzi, and once again, thank you for being here. Beyond technical skills, what kind of soft skills or mindset shift do you believe are very crucial for beginners to cultivate for long-term success?
I would say perhaps starts with giving some perspective on the industry at large. I have noticed, which we're very happy with, that the industry is no longer as stigmatized as it was in the past. When we have youngsters going to their parents and telling them they want to pursue a career in the creative industry, creative entertainment industry to be more specific, they are at least lent an ear or afforded some attention in that regard, and further inquiries are made. So in sub-Saharan Africa, we have enjoyed growth over the past 3 years of at least 25% on average. This is the fastest growing region, music industry globally we're speaking about here. The fastest growing region in the world is sub-Saharan Africa. And the good news about that is South Africa alone accounts for roughly 77% of that their growth. So that there gives you an advantage of the kind of season that the industry finds itself in and the employability chances that come with that. PricewaterhouseCoopers has projected a continuously sustained positive growth trajectory for the industry, at least for the next 15 years or so in South Africa specifically. So the soft skills, you will find that they are going to become more and more critical, because with this growth, we are seeing increasingly professionalization and corporatization of the industry. And this is where we need to acquire the business acumen that entails understanding the marketing process throughout, from conceptualization to execution, branding, positioning, the corporate communications that are entailed therein when brokering deals and things of that nature, crunching of numbers, accounting, all of these are really beginning to come into the fold and to be understood and appreciated as essential skills moving forward in the industry, whether it be independently as an artist or private entity or an employee, so to speak. All of these are indeed crucial at this particular stage in the industry, and we see them becoming increasingly important as time goes by and the trajectory plays out as projected.
Now, when it comes to networking, you advise leading, with value. And I like the fact that you've pointed out being an entrepreneur, the entrepreneurial aspect of it, because having a passion and being excellent at it is all good and well, but you need to make a living out of it.
Yes. You need to make a living out of it. And this, again, touches on soft skills and expertise as an understanding in particular. We call it the entertainment industry. And what I like to say about that is that this speaks to two things. Entertainment speaks to creativity, your creations, and then business, or industry rather, speaks to commercial activity, which implies or ascribes commercial value to your creations. So understanding exactly what value your creations hold as an entrepreneur in this industry is key, because there are various streams of revenue due to the different types of copyrights that come with your creations. So understanding that would indeed enable you as an entrepreneur to build the relevant business models, to see to it that you have multiple revenue streams available to you, allowing for continuous cash flow that you as a business could operate as a going concern.
I'm just glad I didn't grow up in this era, because you just went to school and do what you need to do, and everything just panned out and it just worked out perfectly fine. So much and yet so complex. Let's look at the elements of successful mentorship. Where should one start? Someone is listening to you and I, and they're thinking, okay, which mentor? How do I even identify a mentor?
I think from afar, you're going to study in particular the community you would like to be a part of. So let's say that's a particular genre of music, or let's say that has to do with artist management, label management, or perhaps audio post you want to score for films and television, etc. Studying those respective fields, the communities they're in, and just what the emphasized value points are that are looked for upcoming talent in those industries. These are made mention of if you're paying attention. Then what you would need to do is, as far as possible, acquire to the highest level of proficiency you're able to the skills needed to deliver on the demands of the particular community you've shown interest in. And from there on, we lead with value. It's very important to not despise humble beginnings, because I think a lot of the time when looking for mentors and perhaps people of that role specifically, we might be eyeing very senior executives, people who are well known and are heavyweights in the industry, so to speak. If you're fortunate enough to cross paths with them and have them lend you an ear, that's excellent. If not, you'll be surprised that there are people within your orbit, within a more immediate circle, if you will, a more immediate orbit, who are able to provide you the assistance that you need right now to get you to the next level, which will get you closer to the circles you'd ideally like to find yourself in. So make sure that you have something of value that will prove to be a solution to those around your immediate circle or within your orbit right now, be it a skill, be it a product, be it simply your availability and work ethic, whatever it may be. If it is of value to them, this is what will give you access to a mentorship network and the network in the industry at large.
I've got a WhatsApp. Let me quickly just go through it. It says, "Hi, Bertha, and your guest. With Spotify having changed its royalty rules to keep $250 million, what does the Academy do to lobby those who make policies to be able to advocate on behalf of upcoming artists? Rules being no payout to any artist leaving less than 1,000 streams per year."
Yes, DSPs are proven to be rather quite the challenge. DSPs being digital streaming platforms, and perhaps the biggest villain amongst them, if we were to speak of them in such terms, would be Spotify. So here in South Africa, I think if you're looking to make your revenue via DSPs, streams, etc. alone, unfortunately, that I would, quite frankly speaking, advise to be an unsustainable revenue stream for you. Rather, it provides you with the platform you need to consolidate a following locally, which would afford you the opportunity to leverage touring opportunities, sync opportunities, and things of that nature. But as for the lobbying, our managing director, Nick Matsukis, you may or may not have heard of him, he is an authority on the South African music industry as it pertains to law in particular, an advocate of the High Court. He has appeared before Parliament as well and has been making a few visits through to the Constitutional Court regarding the Copyright Amendment Bill in particular, and just seeing to it that the legislations passed are indeed in favor of creatives. So at this stage, we are simply stalling as best as possible as we can the passing of legislation which would be to the detriment of the industry and creatives at large, and that is, as things are playing out, seeming to be rather successful, and we're hoping that fair legislation is what will pass, because governance is becoming a more and more critical issue applicable to AI as well, where that has become a serious dispute with large language models being trained without the authorization thereof of the copyright owners on their material, etc. So we are actively involved in seeing to it that the rights of the creatives within the industry are protected, and I'm feeling rather confident that that will indeed be the final outcome in this case.
Mzi Kaka, lecturer at the Academy of Sound Engineering, chatting to us. It's just gone after 2:30 and it's time for headlines.
Good afternoon, I'm Kolo Felo. Therefore, in the headlines this hour, we begin with news just in. KZN police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Umzumkulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. The presidency has released a latest progress report on the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission, and diesel prices are expected to rise next month, while petrol users can expect a slight reprieve. I'll have details at 3.
This program is brought to you by SABC Education. Enriching minds, enriching lives.
Hello, friends, and welcome to our Monday edition of Kids Corner. The holidays are over, and we are back to school. How are you feeling about that? Are you excited, nervous, or maybe a little bit of both? As we begin the third term, what's one thing you'd like to do better? Maybe it's improving your marks, finishing your homework on time, or reading more? Do you usually study a little bit every day, or do you wait until just before a test? And what do you do if you don't understand something in class? Do you ask for help, speak to a teacher, or talk it through with a friend? Well, let's hear from some of our friends while you share your answers, your goals, and plans for this term with someone next to you.
Hi, my name is Danica Wood. Now that holidays are over, I'm not very excited to be back at school, I'm gonna be honest. I am a bit excited to see my friends, but I'm not excited for all the work. One thing I want to do better in the third term is improving my marks, because I feel like I can do much better than what I did in term 2. So I want to push towards improving my marks for this term. I don't study a little every day. I only study before exams or cycle tests because I'm a bit lazy, I'm not gonna lie. So I don't really just study unless I have to. If you don't understand something in class, sometimes asking a friend could be better because they can explain it for you in a way that you can understand, or better than the teacher can. But other than that, you should ask the teacher for help if you don't understand anything in class. Thank you.
My name is Dueta Nju, and I go to Mukoli House School. I am not too excited to be back at school. I am just ready for term 3. I was slightly nervous, but I saw no point in being nervous. I just want to read a lot more this term, and I really want to improve my marks. I studied just before a test because I personally have never been able to make a timetable that I actually liked and followed. If you don't understand something in class, you can just ask for help from your teacher.
Good day, everyone. How are you doing? My name is Lorraine. I would say that I'm a bit excited and a bit nervous about being back at school. One thing I'd like to improve in the third term is my schoolwork and my marks by studying a little every day, because I want to be prepared for assignments and tests. If I don't understand something like work we do at school or homework, I ask my teacher because they have more knowledge than me. Thank you so much for listening to me, and have a wonderful day.
Good day, everyone. My name is Zamongoza Mayana, and today I will be talking about going back to school after the school holidays. I feel very excited to be going back to school because I can't wait to see my friends and my favorite teachers. But I am a bit nervous because I don't know what to expect for this term, since my school is always full of surprises. One thing I would love to improve this term is my mathematics marks and my natural science marks, because I feel like I could do way better in these subjects if I just put more effort and ask for help where needed. I plan to pay much more attention in class, complete all my homework, and revise regularly. Overall, I'm hopeful that this term will be a good term. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys learned something new today. See you guys next time.
Okay, my name is Piogishan Pembe. I am 11 years old. I feel a bit both excited and nervous. I'm excited to see my friends again and start a new project, but I'm also a little nervous about getting back into the routine. I really want to focus on improving my marks in math and Afrikaans this term because I know I can do better. I also wanted to be more organized with my homework and not leave it until the last minute. I try and study a little every day because it helps me remember things better. If I wait until the until the test. I usually end up feeling really stressed. A little bit every day makes it easier. If I don't understand something in class, I usually ask my teacher for help because they can explain it in different ways. If I am still confused, I might ask my friends because they can help me understand it too. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Yolanda Mzobe. I am 11 years old. Now that the holidays are over, I feel very excited to go back to school. One thing I want to do better in term 3, like improving my marks, I want to improve more, especially in geography. Yes, I do study little every day before I get a rest. Why? Because that gives you enough knowledge. What can you do if you don't understand something in class? You have to ask your teacher to explain to you. When you still don't understand, try to figure it out. If you still don't understand, go home, ask your siblings or your parents to help you practice. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful day.
Hello, my name is Ndamira Tangi and I'm 11 years old. Now that the holidays are over, I feel a bit excited to be back at school because I get to see my friends again and learn new things. One thing I want to do better in the third term is to finish my homework on time. I try to study a little every day because it helps me remember my work better instead of rushing before a test. If I don't understand something in class, I ask my teacher for help because that's the best way to learn.
Hello, my name is Arham Ahmed and I am 11 years old. Now that the holidays are over, I feel a little nervous but also happy to see my friends. I want to do better in third term by doing all my homework on time. I try to study a little every day so I don't forget things. If I don't understand something in class, I ask my teacher or to talk to a friend.
Good day. My name is Monet Angel Nangabera. Now that the holidays are over, I feel a bit nervous but also excited about going back to school. One thing I'd like to do in term 3 is manage my time more effectively, finish homework on time, improve my marks in a few subjects, and also achieve other things that I want this term. I basically study a little, not every day, but then some days I do study a little bit because there's days where I might have a lot of work to do and might not get a chance to basically revise to other topics. So on the days where I'm free, that's when I go back and I study. If I do not understand something in class, I'll definitely ask for help. Either ask the teacher to explain it again, or talk to a classmate who wrote it down, or also seek extra help after school. Thank you and have a lovely day.
Thank you, friends. It's always great to hear from you. Now that the holidays are over and term 3 is starting, it's time to get back into the school routine. Some children might feel excited to see their friends and teachers again, while others might feel a little nervous or unsure. That's completely okay. Going back to school after a break brings all kinds of feelings. This term is very important because it leads us towards the final part of the school year. That means year-end exams are coming soon, and what you do now can really help you feel ready and confident when that time comes. This term is very important because it leads us towards the final part of the school year. That means year-end exams are coming up soon, and what you do now can really help you feel ready and confident when that time comes. It's a great time to set new goals. Maybe it's improving your marks, finishing your homework on time, or spending more time reading for fun or learning. Even small changes like doing a little bit of revision every day can make a big difference. Some learners like to study a little every day so they don't feel overwhelmed later. But the truth is, starting early and being consistent helps you remember better and reduces stress when exams arrive. And remember, if you don't understand something in class, there's always a way to get help. You can raise your hand and ask your teacher, or you could talk to a classmate you trust. Asking for help shows that you care about your learning, and it helps you stay on track. So as we begin term 3, let's get serious about our studies, stay focused, and do our best every single day. You're smart, capable, and you've got everything it takes to end the year strong. Let's learn, grow, and shine together. That's it for today, friends. See you next time.
This program was brought to you by SABC Education, enriching minds, enriching lives. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat at the Imbaula Music Festival in partnership with SAFM, where music, culture, and community come alive. Join us on the 2nd of August 2025 at Pretoria Botanical Gardens from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. to vibe to Sanal musician Calvin Momo, Amanda Black, Zing Lumalo, Trompis, and many more. More than just music. Share stories, spark change, and unite against gender-based violence. Grab your tickets at imbaula.co.za. Brought to you by SAFM and SABC1. Hear the rhythm, feel the heat. Imbaula.
SABC Sport brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about the Springboks telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Started 13th July at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, the heroics that made rugby history. Stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Bertha Charuma on SAFM.
And this is the last leg of the full circle. And when I say last leg, I think we've got about 17 minutes to be precise. No humanitarian duty for employers to trace deserters, dismissal for desertion. Upheld despite incarceration. So employees have a legal obligation to place their services at the disposal of their employers. Where they fail to do so, different consequences may arise, and the matter could depend on the facts be treated as a form of misconduct or incapacity. So the recent judgment in the matter between Sibanye, Rustenburg Platinum Mines versus Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration and others, that was 30 May 2025, reaffirms the principle that desertion or being absent without permission is a form of misconduct for which an employee may be fairly dismissed. I know it sounds a bit complex, but it's not that complicated. I think we're going to simplify it because I do have senior associate at Bowman's, Amandla Makongwana, joining us on the other side of the line. Amandla, good to have you on the show.
Good afternoon to you and your listeners, Bertha. Thank you for having me on the show.
So could you briefly explain the judgment, the matter between Sibanye Rustenburg Platinum Mines versus Commission for Conciliation, Mediation and Arbitration and others? That was JR 2227/21, 30 May 2025. It sounds so complex and so intricate, but maybe you can just simplify it.
Awesome. Thank you. So what happened in this case, I think it's best to start at the beginning, is that these two employees were incarcerated and they, at the time, occupied very crucial roles within the mine, and their roles were crucial for the operations, right? So 7 days not reporting to work, the employer tries to ascertain their whereabouts to no success, and then ends up taking action that led to their dismissal. 16 months later, they come back to work and they say, here we are, we're ready to work, and they are informed that you're dismissed. And then they go through the internal processes because they tried to set aside their dismissal. The internal appeal confirmed their dismissal, then they approached the CCMA. The CCMA commissioner in that matter then agreed with them that they were not necessarily dismissed because they were incarcerated and then provided a reasonable explanation upon their release. So in that regard, the commissioner ordered that they be retrospectively reinstated, meaning that they would be reinstated from the date of their dismissal by the mine. Unhappy with that outcome, the mine went to the court for a review. And in that instance, the court in a review proceeding is tasked with ascertaining whether the commissioner made a reasonable outcome on the matter. If it is not reasonable, then the court would have grounds to interfere with that decision. In this case, the court considered the factors that the commissioner needed to take into consideration. For an example, whether there was a rule in place, whether they knew the rule, whether the rule was valid and reasonable, and whether it was consistently applied, and whether dismissal was an appropriate sanction. And having considered all the facts and the evidence before the commissioner, the court found that then the reason that the commissioner arrived at was not reasonable in that regard, and confirmed that that dismissal was substantively fair, in the sense that there were valid reasons as to why they were dismissed, being that they were absent without permission, and it was not clear to the employer whether they still intended to come back to work, considering the length of their incarceration. So yeah, it is interesting one, but it's not the first one that our courts have been seized with.
So maybe if you can unpack the Labour Court's reasoning in distinguishing between intention to desert and absence without permission. Why was this shift so significant?
So there was not a real distinction in this regard, because both these concepts are forms of misconduct related to unauthorized absences from work, right? But ordinarily, absence without permission is understood to refer to short-term failure to report for duty. For an example, when an employee falls sick, doesn't inform the employer as to where they are, and then comes back after 2 days with or without a doctor's note and say, sorry, I was sick. And desertion then deals with a more prolonged term of absence, where you still don't have permission to be absent, and the employer still doesn't know where you are, even though they've tried to ascertain that. So that's the case. And with desertion, then the employer can reasonably conclude that the employee has no intention of returning to work, or that they have effectively terminated their employment through their own conduct. But in both the cases of desertion and absence without permission, as we use these interchangeably, what is required is that the employee inform the employer about their whereabouts. If not, then the employer must try to ascertain the whereabouts before taking any disciplinary measures. And it is also important to note that with the short-term period of absence, the sanction might be lighter. It could be a matter of you take those days you're absent, we convert them to unpaid leave, or we apply the rule of no work, no pay, and we give you a warning. But with desertion, because it's such a prolonged term of absence, it may be that then you are called into a hearing, you're given an opportunity to respond, and then you're ultimately dismissed. So that's the difference between those two, if I may say that. But the court didn't really make a distinction on that, but that's just expanded on what they are.
Senior Associate at Bowman's, I'm talking to Amandla. We're going to take a small break and then we'll be back. Maybe you would like to add into the conversation. Maybe you want to ask questions. Absolutely welcome. Send us your voice notes on 061 410 410
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable for you. Whether it's a civil, criminal, or labor-related matter, we have a nationwide panel of attorneys standing by to assist you. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195 and we'll call you back. Clientele General is a licensed non-life insurer and an authorized FSP. Standard rates and terms and conditions apply.
Hey, Want to check your TV license balance conveniently? Look no further. Our SMS service allows you to do just that. By sending a message containing your ID or TV license number to 44210, you can quickly access your balance without needing multiple inquiries or waiting on hold. Plus, standard SMS rates apply. Take advantage of this efficient method to stay informed and streamline your payment process today. T's and C's apply.
The National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
So 4 men arrested. That is significant. Tell us more.
You'll recall Amand Swart, who was killed in April 2024. He was killed on the 17th of April 2024. And within 3 hours after his killing, Gauteng organized crime detectives then trace his killers. They find his killers, arrest them, seize the firearms that were in their possession. That include an AK-47 and 3 pistols. We immediately seize those firearms. We take them in for ballistics and so on. During December 2024, a ballistics report comes out and says the same murder weapon that was used in the Amand Swart case was also used in the DJ Somebody case, where DJ Somebody and his 2 bodyguards were shot and killed.
Police spokesperson Brigadier Atlanta Martin.
Ashraf Garda on SAFM. Find the podcast at safm.co.za. You are listening to The Full Circle.
And I'm speaking to our guest, Senior Associate at Bowmans, Amandla Makongwana. And we're talking about employees having a legal obligation to place their services at the disposal of their employers, and where they fail to do so, different consequences may actually arise. So I was just asking, I think there's one particular case, the Glencore case you referenced. So how does the judgment then intersect with that previous with the previous rulings like that one of Glencore case? Are we seeing crystallization of new legal norm around employee absence?
Thanks for that, Becca. So the facts in those cases are pretty similar. In Glencore, the employee was also incarcerated for about 3 months. So what is important that's coming out of the cases is that absence without authorization or permission is a breach of that obligation that you mentioned, that the employees are supposed to render their full services to the employer. So when you are absent without any authorization, obviously you are unable to render those services, which then means that you are in breach. And the employer will then suffer operationally because of your absence. So these 2 judgments clearly reiterate that where there's a rule in a workplace dealing with being absent without permission, employees who fall foul of that rule or policy then commit misconduct, which may lead to their dismissal, regardless of the justification for their absence, because there's always going to be a reason why you are absent. But then what is considered is you have breached a rule or you have breached a policy that requires you to render full services to your employer.
So is there retrospective reinstatement still a viable remedy in modern South African labour disputes, particularly where operational demands make prolonged absence unattainable?
So the issue of retrospective reinstatement is a tenuous one, as there may be reasons why such is eventually ordered. But the purpose of retrospective reinstatement is to place an employee in the same position he or she would have been but for the dismissal. So the rationale behind this is that had the employee not been dismissed, they would have continued to render their services to the employer. Now, in the circumstances where an employee is reinstated following prolonged absences, the question should be whether that employee would have been able to render services to the employer, which would then be in the negative, because if you are incarcerated, you would not be able to do that in any event. So in this case, retrospective reinstatement may not be viable, but then you have to consider each case on its merit.
So let's take a look at employers, for instance. Should they be expected to update their HR policies to account for extreme or unanticipated circumstances, like, of course, incarceration, which we're talking about, or is that outside the scope of reasonable accommodation?
So not necessarily update their policies. However, where there is no clear policy or rule dealing with absence without permission, employers would be encouraged to have these in place and properly communicate them to the employees so that the employees are aware. Where there is scope for reasonable accommodation, that is usually when the employee is rendered incapable due to illness or an injury. However, what is important to note, Bertha, is that the employee is still able to render their services to the employer, but requires further support. Now, when you are incarcerated, you are unable to render your services at all. So there is no support that the employer can give you in those circumstances to continue their operations or to enable you to render your services.
I'm just looking at my time, and I've got so many questions and so little time. So, how much weight should be given to an employer's attempt to locate employees, such as contacting next of kin before proceeding with dismissal?
So this is an important step because you have to ascertain the whereabouts before taking any action. So that is very, very important. So it's important also because you will be informing the employee or their next of kin of possible consequences of being absent without permission. And you try to ascertain the reasons for such absence and give them the opportunity to actually return back to work before any stipulated date. Because you would say, come back to work within 5 days. So if they come back to work, then they provide those reasons. But if they're not, then it gives you opportunity to take the next step.
And what practical guidance would you then give to employers today to ensure fair but defensible desertion procedures?
So one, have the policy or rule in place, properly communicated. Two, make sure that your employers have their next of kin details regularly updated so that you're able to ascertain their whereabouts should it be necessary. And also, before you dismiss any employee, make sure that you have a proper process that you're following and there are valid substantive reasons why you are doing that, because the dismissal will be ascertained on those two grounds, procedural fairness and substantive fairness. So that's very important.
And let's leave it at this point. I would have asked more questions, but I suppose we can leave it for another time when we have, such a conversation, because there's so much to be ironed out and so much to be understood that many of us do not understand, especially from a legal perspective and when it comes to our employment, code of conduct. But thank you so much, Amandla Makongwana, Senior Associate at Bowman's, chatting to us. Thank you and have yourself a good one.
Thank you, Pedro. Have a lovely one.
Thanks. Well, to my team, that is my technical producer. You've been doing a good job. And also my content producers, and Tosh and Tabiseng. It's been fantastic. Let's do this again tomorrow. Ashraf Godar is up next, and all things current affairs, very topical issues, and of course, lines will be buzzing, I know for a fact, because I always listen to him as I drive home. He's up next with the National Pulse. It's time for News at 3.
Top stories this hour. Former municipal manager arrested in Magaqa case, and Ramaphosa reports on state capture progress. Good afternoon, I'm Kulofelo Tefo. KwaZulu-Natal police have confirmed that a former municipal manager of the Umzimkhulu municipality has been arrested in connection with the 2017 murder of former ANC Youth League Secretary General Sindiso Magaqa. Magaqa was a councillor in the municipality when gunmen opened fire on the vehicle he was in. In other news, the presidency has released a latest progress report on the implementation of the recommendations of the State Capture Commission. The report indicates that nearly 11 billion rand of stolen public funds has been recovered, law enforcement capacity has been strengthened, as well as comprehensive reforms across government. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya says although this work is far from being completed, President Cyril Ramaphosa is committed to the full implementation of the recommendations and rebuilding of public trust in all institutions.
President Ramaphosa finds the progress outlined in this report demonstrative of the unwavering commitment to ensuring that those responsible for state capture are held accountable and that the systemic weaknesses that enabled this assault on our democracy are permanently addressed.
Diesel prices are expected to go up next month, while petrol users can expect a slight reprieve. This is according to the latest unaudited data from Central Energy Fund. The data shows both grades of diesel are expected to increase by between 62 and 63 cents a litre, depending on the grade. Notando Makudulela reports.
The retail price for eliminating paraffin is anticipated to tick up by 29 cents a litre. However, retail unleaded 95 and 93 petrol prices may decrease by around 29 cents and 33 cents respectively. The Department of Mineral and Petroleum Resources is expected to release the final fuel price adjustments later this week or early next week. Notando Makutulela in Johannesburg.
Former mine workers around Ekurhuleni can now go to the Far East Rand